Okay, so I have a lot of ground to cover. It has been an amazing few days, and you absolutely want to stay to the end for fun with Russian state media. So we're going to begin here. As you remember, on September 30th, President Putin joined these four territories of Ukraine into part of Russia, these four oblasts. So what's happened since then? Okay, well, the Russian parliament ratifies agreements about new territory, so it had to go through this process, right? To be legal, it has to go through the referendum, and then Putin has to accept them. It has to go to the High Court. It has to go to the State Duma. So it goes to the State Duma, and they say, and the boundaries of the Kherson region are determined by the boundaries that existed on the day of the admission. But what were those boundaries? We're not exactly sure. Were they the held boundaries or the stated boundaries or what? Even Peskov didn't know what that was. So here the Kremlin's unclear on which part were annexed. And so the Kremlin is still determining which areas of occupied Ukraine it has annexed. I think they're probably going to say the full territory, but they're having a hard time actually holding on to the full territory. Here is Luhansk. They have almost all of it. They've made some inroads here in Luhansk. Donetsk, they never held almost all of it. I mean, a huge chunk of Donetsk was never. So what you don't want to do when you make a law, so I have a master's in public policy. You never want to make a law that you can't actually enforce. That's just silly. It doesn't work. It disrespects the law, or people start to disrespect the law. Zaporizhia, you don't hold this big chunk of Zaporizhia as well, and you're increasingly losing ground in Kherson. So Peskov said the Donetsk and Luhansk regions in their entirety were part of Russia. Really, in your entirety, you're part of Russia? I think the Ukrainians would beg to differ. Okay, and then they're making some progress, and I'm going to show you on a map here how they're making progress differing. Russian State Duma ratifies accession treaties, and it's a foregone conclusion that they unanimously admitted these territories. The foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, said that accession will serve the interests of all people in our multi-ethnic country. Okay, well, I mean, they're now subordinate to Russia on paper, but we'll see how that works. He added that Kyiv had oppressed Russian-speaking people, which made the existence of certain territories within the Ukrainian state impossible. Now, yesterday, the very last thing that I did was shoot this video. Jake Bro, Ukrainian war YouTube commentator, is genius. If you have not watched this, it's only a few minutes long, but he is connecting what Hitler did, annexing the Sudetenland, to what Putin's doing here. And it really is fascinating. And this is exactly what he's saying. The Russian-speaking people are being oppressed. And so you want to watch that video if you have not already. Now, let me keep going. Russia no longer has full control of any of the four annexed Ukrainian provinces. Now, they didn't have control of all of them, but they don't have full control of any of them at this point. So the Russian military acknowledged that Kyiv's forces had broken through in the Kherson region, and the Ukrainian army and its superior tank units had managed to, quote, penetrate the depths of our defenses, says Zolta Bolaka and Alexandra Kova. Okay, so that's we're talking about down here, and I'm going to show you this on a larger scale. The Ukrainian military Southern Command said forces in the south destroyed 31 tanks. Russian military bloggers are pulling their hair out. They really are. They said Ukraine's advance was spectacular, and these guys are on Putin's side. They want Russia to win. They're nationalists for Russia. Zelensky dismissed as farce the Russian annexation of Ukrainian territory, which includes Kherson, Zaporizhia, and Luhansk. And it is. It's on paper, but it doesn't mean anything. This is going to be settled on the battlefield. Ever since Russia decided that paper agreements don't matter and you can just roll over with tanks, paper doesn't really matter. Okay, when the Ukrainian flag is returned, no one remembers the Russian farce with some pieces of paper, says Zelensky. That's right, it's going to be settled on the battlefield. The deputy head of Russia's puppet administration in the Kherson region, Kirill Stremanov, acknowledged the Ukrainian army was advancing, but he added that everything is under control. We're going to come back to that in just a moment. But let's go and first look at the ISW's assessment. Ukrainian forces continue to make substantial gains around Lyman in the north and Kherson in the south. But along the way, Russian President Vladimir Putin is continuing efforts to redirect blame for recent military failures. Now, this is a core theme. Nobody's attacking Putin, even though Putin's ultimately responsible. It's the generals. It's the people that are recruiting. It's this group or that group. Putin's never to blame, and that's really part of the systemic problem with Russia is that you can never attack Putin. Let's look at the map. This is the Kherson region, okay, in the south. See, this is Kherson Oblast. Odessa's over here. Crimea is down here. Okay, so if we look at this map and we just move over a little bit, I want to show you what's happened since um, they became part of Russia. Okay, so this is the day before Putin signs the agreement. And look at this, the day of, the first, the second, watch the map start to change. The third, okay, look at that progress that they're making. That is substantial progress. Okay, now let's look in the north and let's look at the map here. This is the day before the agreement signed. Look at that. Look at the progress that is being made again around Lyman, right? So they're chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. And that's where we are. You can say on paper that you hold the ground, but if you can't enforce it, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Here, Radio Free Europe. Anger over Russia's battlefield defeats bursts into the open, posing a challenge for Putin. And so this is James Nixie at the Chatham House, which is a think tank in Britain. I wouldn't predict a palace coup imminently. If there were one, we'd be almost the last ones to know about it. These things happen pretty swiftly when they do. So he's not saying that this is going to happen, that Putin's going to be replaced or anything along those lines. The problem is Putin's grip in all sorts of ways is too strong for people to mobilize and consolidate and form an alliance and move against him. Again, it's never Putin to blame. It's always someone else, somewhere else, a general or some department somewhere, whatever. Okay? Inside Russia, discussions of the military's early setbacks in Ukraine has been muted, and that's because you can get 15 years and go to jail if you speak out against the government. Now, when you can't speak truth to power, there is a significant problem within the system, and that could be an organizational system or that could be a political system, as we see in Russia. Okay, here's the next one. The main takeaway of the speech is that Putin isn't going to stop. No matter, now we're talking about his speech where he recognized these 4 oblasts as part of Russia. The main takeaway of the speech is that Putin isn't going to stop no matter the cost. The speech was an incoherent, scattered, suggesting that there is no clear strategy. So I went and reviewed the whole speech. If you have read or watched the whole speech, tell me that you watched the whole speech. It was really bizarre. But my takeaway from that was this video. When will it end? Putin's all in. Putin's all in, and that's really the takeaway here. So I'm not looking forward to what's coming next. It's just the Ukrainians are just going to have to keep chipping away at it. Thousands of mobilized Russians sent home deemed unfit for duty. I'm just going to look at the headline here because it doesn't say much more than that in the article. Okay, fun with Russian state media. Here we go. So the West is losing Brazil as an ally against Russia. Yeah, you remember when the Brazilians stormed the beaches with the Americans and the Brits? You don't, because Brazil was never really an ally. In fact, Brazil is part of the BRIC economic bloc, which means BRIC is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now it's BRICS with South Africa. So they were never really tight or anything. So I'm not sure what they're worried about here in Pravda. In RT, this was amazing. Russia faces a 4th European NATO Reich. Huh? Like the Third Reich? Okay, I did my master's thesis on the Third Reich, and this is just babbling incoherent. Russia is currently involved in a confrontation with the 4th European NATO Reich, said the leader of the Communist Party. With his remark, the politician effectively compared the U.S.-led NATO alliance to Nazi Germany. Okay, this is just incoherent. These were people on the opposite sides of things. It's not Nazi Germany. They're not Nazis in any way. But this article was even superseded by this article, which is Ukrainian counterattacks on Kherson have failed, says a top official. Now you saw, who are you going to believe? Them or your lying eyes when you just saw the map? Attempts by Ukraine's forces to break through Russia's defenses in Kherson region have been thwarted, head of local administration Kirill Stemenov said. I don't think that the head of the local administration would have any reason to lie about this, would he? Okay, Stremenov stated that everything is under control in the Nikolaev direction. Ukraine's forces had advanced southward before taking a beating from Russian aerospace forces. Okay, so anything he says from here, after you just saw with your own eyes what was going on here, look at the territory that was just taken, right? So this is 9:30, 10:1, 10:2, 10:3. I mean, all this territory change. And what he's saying, no, 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 nothing. They've just taken a beating. Well, if that's taking a beating, beat them some more. He concluded, "This is not Kharkiv, this is not Lyman. We are holding the fence," he proclaimed. Yeah, sure you are. Okay. At any rate, there's far more out there if you want to know what's going on. By the way, if you have gone back, and I know at least one person have, if you've gone back and gone all the way back through 85 where I first started, send me a note, send me a picture. I want to highlight you because that's freaking awesome. I mean, that's really amazing. If you have a chance to subscribe, if you're new, please do. If you are not new, please like, so it tells the YouTube algorithm that this is kind of content that other people should see. I would very much appreciate it. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about what's going on in Ukraine.